Let's get it out of the way. Yes, I got a haircut. Yes, I look British. No, we're not talking about it anymore. I don't think I've ever had short hair, like, in the history of this channel. This is different. Oh, and I've been in the hospital, like, all last week. But you know what? That's not important. This past week has been crazy for a number of different reasons. But a big thing to talk about was last Friday was a huge New Music Friday if you are chronically online or just really depressed. We had albums from people like Black Country New Road, The Blonde Vampire, Too Hollis, and especially, and the subject of this video, Jane Remover. Yes, the artist who has been soaring in popularity recently, Jane Remover, released their third studio album, Revengeseekers, last Friday. And the album has kind of taken everybody by storm, with people like Danny Brown saying before its release that it was album of the year. And even him accidentally revealing that it was coming out that day. It was a surprise release, nobody knew it was dropping that Friday, except Danny. To a majority of the online crowd showing love for this album, it was crazy. And what was really surprising to me is that in the time that I've been listening to Jane Remover really consistently, this album felt so different from what she'd been putting out before the release of the lead singles of this album. It was so different, it was so in your face, and that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. Revengeseekers feels like it's bringing experimental glitch pop, hyper pop, hip hop adjacent, there's only so many words I can say, to a larger audience. And today, I want to talk about the lead up to this album and just the effect it's been having in general. My name's Henry, I love music. This channel is where I talk about it. I'm not super great at intros, so let's just get into talking about Revengeseekers by Jane Remover. Boom, I don't know what I was doing there. So to give a little context, I have not been a Jane Remover fan for that long. I discovered Jane Remover when they were opening for JPEG Mafia last year, and whenever I found out that they were opening, I looked at their music and I became a huge fan. I believe it was right after the release of Flash in the Pan. Could be wrong, but I do remember that being the first song I listened to. And then in that moment, just being able to experience the album Census Designated and the album Frailty, it was just like an overwhelming amount of talent. So already believing she was in an album rollout with the release of Flash in the Pan, and I believe Dream Sequence was the other one in that package, I was very, very excited for the release of this album. And the release of Magic I Want You and How to Teleport only furthered that excitement. Magic I Want You was one of my favorite songs of last year. I don't remember exactly where I ranked it, but I do know it was in my top 10. That song goes crazy. So again, assuming she's in album rollout mode, I'm very excited for what this is all gonna bring about. And then, lo and behold, she kind of switches up on us very drastically. To me, the release of those 4 singles felt like Jane was testing the water. She was really seeing what sound she liked, what she wanted to work with for that next album. And as she was honing in on that sound, she gave us the song JR, 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 which was completely different from what we'd been hearing. Whereas the song I talked about previously, Magic I Want You, was a little experimental. It was a lot more groovy and catchy, if that makes sense. JR, JR, JR was in your face. It was loud. There were so many other things going on. And I'll be the first to admit, I did not really like the song when it first came out. I think I listened to it on the way to work at 8 in the morning when it first came out, and I was like, I'm awake now. But as I kind of sat with it and felt what was going on in this song, I really, really, really enjoyed it. With the song kind of talking about how Jane doesn't really have to be attached to one name. They can be called a bunch of different things and still be Jane Remover. So now we fast forward a little bit more to the last single before the release of the album, Dancing With Your Eyes Closed. And this song was what really hooked me into this album, because Dancing With Your Eyes Closed felt like a really great combination of the sounds of Magic I Want You and JR, JR, JR combined into this beautiful song. It had elements of that crazy production that JR had, but went back to that groove and that kind of catchy rhythm that Magic had. And it was just the perfect, oh my gosh, I love that song. It seemed as though the album was finally ready and Jane was giving us the last taste that we needed to really get excited. And then on a random Friday night, after Danny Brown tweeted Revengeseekers and told us that it wasn't dropping that night, it dropped that night. And let me tell you, this album is a force to be reckoned with. It's crazy. The album is 12 songs long, spans just under 50 minutes, and is chock full of this crazy noisy experimental production. After listening to this album, it kind of felt like the dusty old shoegaze sound we heard on Census had been reserved for Jane's alter ego Venturing, and this new sound was truly what Jane was focusing on. Right from the get-go, you can tell what this album is trying to present itself as from the first track, Twice Removed. And while it does kind of venture out into different genres throughout this album, it really stays on that theme. Now, when I first listened to this album, and something that many other people caught up with, is the Pokemon influence. So kind of staying on topic with the production, Jane samples the sound Palkia makes in the Pokemon games on almost every single song. If I remember correctly, there's only like a few that it's not on there. And then even further beyond that, the second song, Psycho Boost, is named after the signature move of Deoxys. So that was kind of cool. But I mean, it kind of plays into the theme of the album. There's a lot of like nostalgic sounding sounds that she uses on this album. All of that coming together to drive home a theme, in my opinion, of like, this is me, and it always has been me, even from that long ago. And it also just makes this album really, really fun to listen to. And then to drive that point home even further, they sample their own music. I've been sitting with this album for a few days, and like I said, I was in the hospital, so I didn't listen to the album then, but I can hear that some old music was sampled. Specifically in the song Dream Flasher, which from even the name of the song, I knew it was going to be similar to Flash in the Pan. And I was right, they sampled elements of Flash in the Pan on Dream Flasher almost to make like a sequel to the song. And like I was saying earlier, I think that really drives home my take on this album of Jane just saying, you can call me whatever name you want, but this is me from how long ago when I was releasing this old music to right now. There's also some funny samples. They sampled the Fortnite ping. That's not a joke. I can't remember the song on the top of my head that it was sampled in, but it is there. Along with a bunch of other lines from video games or just different points in pop culture. And I know Jane talked about this a little bit on their interview with Anthony Fantano. The interview did just happen today, and I haven't watched all of it. I'm sorry. But it makes for a very fun album. But even on this super fun album, Jane is not afraid to get personal and real, like on the song Dark Knight's Castle, where they talk about dreaming of quitting their job and how they don't think anyone will ever love them. It's such a vulnerable point of the album, and it's such an interesting break in this kind of craziness that we've been introduced to. Funny enough, it reminds me of the most recent JPEG Mafia album, and you can say whatever you want about me being a Peggy fan. I don't care. But one of my favorite things about I Lay Down My Life For You was the kind of personal break that either On or Off the Drugs gave us in between all of this like super crazy noise that we'd been given. And I think that's emulated really, really well in this album. And I'm gonna say it again, it really drives home that point of Jane saying, this is me. This is me at my lowest. This is me when I'm having fun. This is me from all these years ago. This is me right now. Revenge Seekers is Jane just being their authentic self. And that's really all there is to it. There's no crazy lore or crazy story happening in this album. It's just truly self-expression. And I think that's really awesome. I'm such a fan of Jane's style and how they've decided to handle the production of this album. It's so crazy. And I think that's awesome. I'm such a fan of the sound that Jane decided to go with for this album. It's so cool. But yeah, I could definitely see Jane as like a gym leader in a Pokemon game. I don't rate albums on this channel. That's not really something I do. I don't want to call myself a music critic, but I think this album is very good and I highly recommend it. And to be honest, I think that's gonna do it. I wanted to keep this video kind of short, concise, be something digestible while I'm recovering. If you made it this far and you want to know what happened, my lung partially collapsed. It didn't go all the way down, but it did go down enough to where they had to like put a tube right here. So I was in the hospital for a few days, but I'm okay now. I just gotta take it easy and recover for a few days. But on a lighter note, the video I posted last week is doing really, really well, so thank you so much. If this is your second time seeing me from when you subscribed from the last video, thank you so much. I know this video is not like very similar to what I posted last week, but that's just kind of how I do it here. We bounce around a bunch of different topics. And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed and you made it this far, throw a subscribe. You're basically, you already watched the whole thing. But that's gonna do it. Jane, if you see this, your album's great, and add a Dallas date to the tour, please. I can't drive to Austin, but I think that's gonna do it. So, see ya. Goodbye.